Abby finds herself today in the middle of an existential crisis, and it has everything to do with Barbie.
Yeah,
Barbie.
All my problems related to Barbie. Yeah, everyone keeps raving about this massive $100 million marketing budget for Barbie. And they're like, oh my gosh, it's so amazing the way that this film was marketed. But I think it all went to waste because I walked into that film wearing bright pink, ready to party. And I left with a literal existential crisis. So I went to the film with Cassie and Kristen and Rebecca and Katie and a bunch of other girls. And we were just like so excited to see this film. It was so hyped up. And Barbie's really nostalgic for me because I had this aunt growing up that was like very Barbie obsessed. So a lot of like my earliest memories were with Barbie and playing with Barbie dolls. And without really giving too much of the movie away, I don't personally think this is a spoiler, but I'm going to describe the film. The opening scene is all about how up until the 50s, women and young girls, like really the only dolls they had to play with were baby dolls. And the only role they could play was the role of mother. And so when Barbies came around, you could be whatever you wanted. You could be a Barbie who's a doctor. You could be a Barbie who's a teacher. You could be a Barbie who's a model. And I was like sitting there like sobbing watching this opening scene. I was like, you really can't be anything. And I know like Barbie gets a lot of flack for being problematic with pushing beauty standards. And of course the movie calls that out and stuff. But it really was this very like empowering moment of seeing, oh my God, you can be like anything you want to be, and Barbie represents that. And so then moving past it, there was another scene where Barbie and Ken are together and having like this little spat about how Ken needed to leave the Barbie dream house because it's not Ken's dream house, it's Barbie's dream house. And that moment called out something in me from like my upbringing where I was watching this very like almost hyper independent autonomous woman in this film. You know, Barbie, she has her own career and she has her own house and she's running her life. And she's telling Ken to get out of the house. And I was like sitting there, I was like, wow, that's so flipped from the way that I grew up. Because I grew up in a very heteronormative household and a very like heteronormative like subdivision and suburb. And nobody was ever like, oh, you're going to stay home and be like a mom and not like have your own career or, you know, like run your own life. But I think when you grow up around so many people that are living that existence, you sort of are just sort of like subconsciously fed that message. And so I was like sitting there watching this woman, you know, Barbie, totally flip that on its head. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, wow, I've really like made men the center of, not the center of my life, but I really have like maybe subconsciously have been waiting for my life to begin in a way before meeting a man. Because, you know, when you meet other parents growing up and you hear their stories of, well, I was 25 and we were at a ballpark and then I met Timmy and then me and Timmy, we moved to this city that we've now lived in for 30 years and we have our 2 kids, and it sort of pushes this message that that's when your life began. And I was watching the movie and kind of had that aha moment of like, I kind of feel like I've been waiting for my life to begin until I've like met somebody. And I don't know why that is, because like I'm living my dream. Like all I've ever wanted to do was be on a national radio show and be financially independent and have my own life. And I'm like, I have all these things, yet when I go home and I'm done with work and I'm not watching Pride and Prejudice for the 3,000th time, I'm thinking, okay, well, when is Mr. Right coming into the picture? And it kind of called me out for thinking you really need to decenter dating from like a main point of your life. So that was like sitting there was just kind of like this big aha moment. And I hope other women have felt that way too watching the film. And because it touched on so many different things from like humanity and like feeling hard feelings is good, and also like girlhood, and like you can be whatever you want. And if you want to be a mother, you can do that too. But also if you want to be something else, like that's also like a completely valid thing to want for your life.
Did you feel so inspired that you immediately deleted Hinge?
You know, I thought
Tinder?
I thought about it. I was like, I should probably delete Bumble, but then I also have the unhinged segment. I'm like, I need to at least keep Hinge. But I decided, I was like, maybe for the next month, I'm like, maybe I should just like stop going on dates and stop like scrolling through Hinge aimlessly in the hopes that like Mr. Right is out there, and just purely use it to shame men on the radio when they have really bad voice prompts. And so I think I'm going to at least try and do that for the next 30 days of like taking a step back and being like, okay, well, with all this time that I've invested in dating and like trying to meet men, like what else could I be doing with my time? You know what I mean? Like, could I write a novel? Could I go hiking by myself? You know what I mean? Like, what are the things I could be doing that have nothing to do with like making somebody else like the co-star of my life?
Like your life doesn't start when you find a man. I love that. Yeah,
exactly.
It's the weird double-edged sword of growing up in a stable family with parents who stay married, is that is what's modeled for you. And so you look at your parents, especially ones who've been married a long time, you're like, look at the life they built together. Look at the family they built together. Even if mom's a stay-at-home mom, you know, she's an integral part of building this family life in this picture. And so I can see how, like, it's almost like you're on pause or just doggy paddling in place, just waiting for someone so you can go, boom, we can go do this stuff. And I think a lot of women start to realize that in their mid to late 30s. They're like, oh, if they're not with a partner, they're like, yeah, cool. I'm going to buy my own house. I'm going to do my own things. It doesn't matter. But it is interesting. I don't think you have to give up dating, but at the same time, it's cool that you have that realization, like, yeah, I can build the life I want, and I don't need anybody else by my side. I don't need permission in order to do it. I can go do it now.
You think a lot of women walked out of that movie going, that was more than I expected?
100%.
Is that right?
And with a couple of tears as well.
Yeah.
The Bert Show.
Hey, did you like what you just watched? Good news, there's more of us. If you go to wherever you listen to your podcast, whether that's Apple or Google Play or Spotify, you can listen to The Bert Show wherever you are, whenever you want to.